Hello and welcome everyone to We'll Be Right Back, the future of hospitality. On We'll Be Right Back, we interview people from every corner of the service and hospitality industry, as well as representatives from organizations providing relief and resources as we learn how to manage and settle into this new reality after COVID-19. I am your host, Greg Tilton. I am joined today by Christina Balzabre, owner and baker at Levee Baking Company. Christina, my wife and I live about 2.5 blocks away from Levee, and probably the only good thing I can say about this shutdown is that I'm not there all the time. I am obsessed with your galettes. The strawberry galettes are one of my favorite pastries.
Thank you.
So I could gush all day about the amazing food and pastries and bread work y'all are doing. Bread work is a professional term, right? Christina, please introduce yourself. Introduce Levee.
Hi, I'm Christina, and I started Levee as a pop-up about 5 years ago, and it just snowballed into a business, and we grew incrementally every year, and we just opened up a brick and mortar exactly a year ago.
Before we kind of wind up into the really cool work and usage of your space, can you tell us a little bit about the weeks leading up to shelter in place and your, I guess, semi-shutdown status? I wouldn't fully call it that, but tell us a bit about that early to mid-March period and kind of how you got to where you are now.
Well, it became apparent after looking at what other countries were going through and other businesses were going through that we would have to close down eventually. I tried to be very transparent with my team and just came up with a plan as soon as I could. And a lot of guidance that I got was actually from Ashton Berry from her IG is called The Collectress. And she put out this amazing plan for businesses to follow because I really didn't feel like I had a lot of guidance. I was just looking at what other people were doing. And it was very easy and basic. Just come up with a plan, make sure that you're looking at all of your finances, make sure you're able to pay your employees, pay your vendors as much as you possibly can. And by following that, I felt like I wasn't alone in trying to come up with, what to do next. In the beginning, when the government was saying that they were going to offer a lot of emergency funding for businesses, I felt pretty supported by that as well, until it became apparent that it wasn't going to be for the small businesses like mine that really, really needed it. So it's been a lot of lesson learning, that's for sure.
Yeah, for those who, this will kind of timestamp the episodes, I always like to say, but we're kind of in the midst right now of a lot of controversy. Certain larger companies that may or may not fit the bill for what the small businesses are that are supposed to get these SBA loans and PPPs. Basically, they're being told to send money back. The money dried up really quick. And unfortunately, a lot of small businesses did not receive the funding that they very much need. And I'm very sorry to hear that you were on the other end of that.
Right. And I applied as soon as I could. I thought I was doing everything right. And then as soon as it was apparent that we weren't going to be getting anything immediately, I knew that I had the community support. And I knew that if a lot of small businesses came together and if we were selling under one roof, then we would be able to make it through. And that's pretty much the idea of what's happening now. And also, a lot of restaurants, we've all been on an email chain together, and that's been pretty amazing. There's been a lot of people who are reaching out to our representatives and to Congress to make sure that at least we're trying to get the word out that restaurants are struggling. And I think people are hearing it now a lot more loudly, but it's been a struggle to figure out which way to go. So in the past couple of weeks, I've heavily relied on the community to buy our baked goods and support other local farms that we are hosting in this space.
So I definitely want to talk about this kind of farm hub you're hosting with other businesses. Could you give us a little insight, though, into, especially with the advent of the loan situation, what's going on with your staff currently? How are they doing? What's going on there?
So as soon as this all started happening and places started closing down, I started sending weekly emails to everybody, giving them updates on what we were planning on doing. And if anybody didn't feel comfortable coming to work, it was totally acceptable to feel afraid because this virus is really scary. It's a real scary thing to go through. And I wanted everyone to feel totally secure in staying home. So I was still paying everybody, even if they decided not to come into work. By the end of the week of I think it was March 15th, I just told everyone to stay home because I was even scared coming here and having customers leave their homes. And it wasn't really apparent yet, like how people were going to behave with the social distancing. I don't think everyone really got it until a couple of weeks into it. I budgeted and I made sure that I could pay rent and payroll for at least a month so that everybody was still getting something, because I knew that unemployment was going to be really hard to get through and the system was going to be overwhelmed. So even now, I'm still paying 50% of my team. The other 50% asked to be taken off payroll because they got stimulus money or unemployment. So I'm really thankful to them, and they're the reason why this whole place works. That was one of my main goals, was to make sure that they are supported. And it's interesting because I know that it's not my fault, but I think a lot of employers might feel this way, that it's like a failure to have to remove people from your payroll, but it's just how it is right now. And thankfully, some people got some money coming in from the stimulus too.
Doesn't surprise me to hear that you feel responsibility, but I wouldn't say that's as much blame. I get it. And I think that it's great that you have empathy and truly understand what your staff is going through and have tried your best to mitigate that and to help them where you can. Because I know in our pre-call, you talked about trying to assist them when they were navigating a lot of this initially.
Right. And I also made sure that we have a food pantry available for them. So I'm still getting deliveries from local farms, and I'm still getting CSA boxes and whatever flour and sugar, whatever they need for their homes, it's available to them also. That was one of the guidelines that Ashton Berry had put in her restaurant guide for like what to do during this time. And because restaurants and bakeries have access to wholesale vendors, it's a lot easier for us to get groceries, because the grocery part was a big deal. They were running out so quickly in the beginning of everything. So it was important to me that people had access to food.
So for those who don't know, really quick, what does CSA stand for?
CSA is Community Supported Agriculture.
And I guess on that note, because I'm so clever and have great lead-ins, could you take us a bit into what you have been using the space in Levee for? Could you tell us a bit about this? You described it as a farm hub. You've got an egg guy, basically your local sources operating out of the space. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so I used to have a booth at the farmers market, and I've developed a lot of relationships with farmers. Some of them are very close friends. And that is also one of the main missions of the bakery, is to source as locally as possible and to keep all of our products, whether it's fresh food and eggs to chocolate and coffee, to keep it as local as possible. So with this space, it just made sense. We have the space, we might as well share it with everyone that we can. So for the past 5 weeks, every Tuesday, we've been doing small bake-offs in conjunction with River Queen Greens, and they have a CSA box. And they're actually selling their boxes at 3 different locations, but once a week at Levee.
Tell us a bit about how the delivery and pickup, well, rather the pickup side of it. I believe you said it's a curbside pickup service. How do people do this? I mean, maybe some listeners would like to participate.
Right. We are just putting a 6-foot table by the door. No customers are actually allowed in the bakery, but we're doing a pre-order system. I put up all the orders online, and they've been selling out extremely fast, which is amazing. If you have a pre-order, you come to the bakery on the day that you pick up, and you just say your name at the door and we slide the order over. So it's contactless. It feels really safe. We're constantly, following the CDC guidelines. It's working for now. So we might expand mid-May to do a few more days a week.
You talked about the importance of local sources and local sourcing, and the groups you have operating out of this space seem to be an extension of that. Can you talk a bit more about that, about who you have in there and what they are to you in the community?
So we have River Queen, we have Pistil and Stamen Flower Farm, Peeps Eggs, and these are all people that I know from the farmers market. I see them once or twice a week. I pick up eggs, I pick up dairy, I pick up all of my produce every Tuesday at the Crescent City Farmers Market when it was still operating. It was a routine that I've had for the last 3 years, so it feels really weird to not have that anymore. Of course, everything feels weird right now, but being able to have a space for them to sell all of their produce is really important. And just local sourcing in general, that's something that I've always felt really strongly about is being a part of the local economy and making sure that farms, which are local businesses also, they're growing things, within a couple of miles of the bakery, then they should definitely be a part of what we're doing. And I think it's also the future. And I think that people see that now more than ever in terms of the industrialization of farming and manufacturing. I think there was an article released from the New York Times last week about all of these huge farms that are having to throw tons and tons of food away because the economy is so bad right now. And I think that it's because of the demand that I'm seeing for local farms here, you kind of see where the food is needed most and where the accessibility should be. It's amazing what our local farmers are doing. And something that I was thinking about earlier is a lot of people might have this tendency to think that farm to table dining is this trendy thing and that it's a boutique style operating system. But I think that it's actually going back to old ways of how our economy used to work. And it's really important that we support them because the access to it is going to be a lot easier for the environment and better for our local economy than getting something that's produced across the country.
It's so interesting to me how you've kind of come full circle in a way. You referenced several times how your beginnings were in a farmer's market, right? And now you have gone brick and mortar and a year later have come right back to where you started, albeit in a completely new and leading way. You've got these people these relationships you built, and you're running your own little farmer's market now. It's kind of incredible.
Thank you. And it's funny because I was thinking about that the other day. Like, these are the farmers who I used to have my booth right next to, and now we're all in the situation together. But it feels really good that we're all supporting each other, and it's really important that community is number one right now.
And my understanding is you're providing this space for them just pro bono, which maybe that's an obvious move for you, but I imagine they all are very acutely aware of this.
Yeah, I think food accessibility is really important right now, and if I can provide that space for people not only to sell but to from the neighborhood to come and grab fresh produce, then that's really important.
Your entire operation just screams sustainability. It just, as much as you said, some of this stuff seems trendy or whatever, but you are putting it in practice right now, and you are all able to drive revenue, provide for the community, keep your heads above water. It seems like this just ticks a lot of boxes. Is this a permanent fixture, you think? I mean, is this going to be a new arm of Levee? Is this going to be a pivot? Is this going to be something that you try for now and maybe you explore again later? I imagine you're having these conversations internally.
Yeah, definitely. This is something that I've been interested for a long time. Is we lost Holly Grove Market, which was a really great hub for farmers. And I think it was about 2 years ago, it closed down, but it used to be this great place where you could get local milk and local eggs. And it was just aggregating all of these farms into one place. And I think we're missing that right now, especially because the farmers markets are closed. So if I could turn in half the bakery to a little farmers market, that would be a dream, and make it accessible to people, because not everybody has access to going to the farmers market in the middle of the week, or they don't have a car to get to the one that's downtown. So when they open back up, I hope that they also make it more accessible for people. But it would be great to have a little, corner of the bakery just dedicated to that.
I love it. I really am so excited to see what you do with this concept and how it carries forward.
Thank you. I'm excited that people want access to local fresh food. It's really amazing to see.
So to kind of get a little more back to the brass tacks of your business, I know we're kind of jumping forward, jumping back, but how has kind of your supply chain look? How has your day-to-day operation changed? Obviously, you have this farm hub, but a lot of people are asking these questions about, are my suppliers going to be around? Can the stuff I want even be shipped? And what does kind of the operations look like for you? And how do you think that's going to change as you go?
In terms of getting supplies for baking, I've definitely been having more conversations with vendors than I ever have before. For example, one of our flour millers based out of North Carolina, she has been sending emails once a week, just updating everybody. She stopped milling for a little while and then decided to start back up again. And it's just been a lot of email chains and trying to figure out what works for both businesses. So it's been a lot of that. A lot of the other, vendors like farmers, I'm just in direct contact with. Because I have these relationships built up, it's been pretty easy to get fresh produce. And I'm really grateful for that because I don't necessarily want to go to Restaurant Depot right now where a lot of other people are trying to get things in bulk. And I also feel really grateful that farmers are still delivering and that there is still a hub through JV Foods, which is a wholesale company that aggregates all of these farms from Mississippi and Louisiana, and they're still delivering right now. And, those people are also part of the front line who are risking a lot by still doing that. But another thing is the future of what it's like to operate as a business and how to treat employees. Because I think one of the biggest things that we're all learning right now is why doesn't the restaurant industry have this built-in system where employees have paid time off or healthcare automatically, legally should be something that all employers have. All of these things are going to be a part of our reopening. I'm already planning on having a team meeting where all of these benefits are a part of the job, whether or not a pandemic happens. That's one of the things that I feel really strongly about that has to happen across the board.
I think you're right. These raise such interesting questions and important questions about how we're going to run these businesses. I was having a conversation with another future interviewee for the show, and we were talking a lot about how, as grim as everything may feel for some people, this is also kind of forcing us to look under the hood of our businesses, even look under the hood of our own mental wellness. I think a lot of the cans we've kicked down the line need to be addressed. And it sounds like you're having these conversations.
Yeah, and I think a lot of employers, and especially being a part of the restaurant industry for so long, where the standards have been set so low. Like I remember being like, yeah, I love getting paid $13 an hour for working 60-hour weeks. And like, this is just how it is. And, I don't eat all day, but this is just part of the industry. Like those things have to change. And I know that a lot of people build up these habits, but it is no longer acceptable. And I feel if you are an employer, you are a leader and you have to integrate those systems and you have to take care of your people. And that's one thing that is going to be a part of my plan as soon as this is over. And it was before, but now I'm like, this is written in stone. This is paper. Like you have to take a break. Even if that's not a part of your habits, you have to take a break and sit down and eat something and take care of yourself. Even as simple as that sounds, like it's very important.
Yeah, as someone who works in the film industry, there is a lot of kind of like go, go, go. There's this kind of art meets business world where you're really being ground for as much work as possible in a lot of situations, often working 10 to 12-hour days. I've always thought that the hospitality industry and the film industry share a lot of parallels in that regard. They obviously face their own unique challenges, but there very much is sometimes an external pressure to rally for the team and get the job done, and it's often at your own personal detriment. And it's not to say that that's always the situation, but like you said, you're getting paid $13 an hour doing 60-hour weeks, and you kind of chalk it up to, well, this is the industry. This is kind of the school of hard knocks, right? This is the paying your dues and doing your time to make it to a point where it's more sustainable. But the question is, do we have to do that, or is that how it's always been?
I feel like it's how it's always been, and a part of opening this bakery was trying to change that, because I mean, I've been working in the industry for over 10 years now, and up until I started working for myself, that's how it was, and I accepted it, and I internalized all of it. And now, as a person on the other side of it, where I can make changes, all of these questions are very, very important, even if they're uncomfortable. Money is a topic that doesn't come up enough, and intimidation is just should not be tolerated. Like, you shouldn't be intimidated by your boss to ask for a raise. You shouldn't be intimidated to have a workplace where you feel safe. All of these things I think are vital. And I really, really hope that we come out of this and enter into a new world.
I think these are such good conversations to have, and I really appreciate you bringing it here on the show. Christina, is there anything else you want to hit? Is there any other topics you want to talk about?
If it's possible, and if people are in a place where they can get local food and shop locally, I would say that that's a priority number one right now.
We should all be supporting local businesses. We should all be looking at who's doing stuff. We've talked about Pythian Market. We've talked about Levee. There's so many good local options for food and supplies we all need. So I highly encourage you all to please check out what Levee's up to. And on that note, Christina, can you please tell us where to find you? Give us those shameless plugs.
We are located right off of Magazine Street on 9th. It's the big green Art Deco building. And we have a lovely space, and we can't wait to have people back in here once it's allowed. But in the meantime, you can order online for Tuesday and Saturday bake days with, right now, we have 3 local farms and a couple of other businesses that you can order from their websites also. And all the information is on our website, leveebakingco.com.
And as you all know, the links to this will definitely be in the show notes. So get in there and click it and support an awesome local institution. I love this Farm Hub concept, Christina. It is such a cool idea. The moment you told me about it before we started this show, or rather in our initial phone call, I knew we had to talk about it. I just think it's so smart. It's so comprehensive. And thank you so much for providing this amazing service and working with all these great local businesses.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here to be able to do it.
Well, Christina, thank you for coming on the show, and you take care.
All right, you too.
Thank you so much for listening to We'll Be Right Back, the future of hospitality. Each episode, we will be highlighting a different organization contributing to the relief effort here in New Orleans. This episode, we would like to highlight Chef's Brigade. Chef's Brigade is a collection of New Orleans restaurants, chefs, and servers feeding healthcare workers and first responders while financially supporting our independent restaurants, culinary talent, and service industry. To contribute to the cause and learn about this amazing initiative, head to chefsbrigadenola.org. We have a link in the show notes. Again, that's chefsbrigadenola.org. We'll Be Right Back is produced by me, Greg Tilton. My co-producers are Barry Schwartz of My House Events and Elizabeth Tilton of Oyster Sunday. Barry and Elizabeth are offering incredible resources and services during this time through their New Orleans-based businesses, as well as collecting and sharing various initiatives by other individuals and organizations. All of these are linked in the show description, so please make sure to check them out. You can follow us on Twitter for the latest updates and to let us know what's up, @RightBackNola. Please also consider leaving a review for us on whatever podcast platform you fancy. It helps us know what you think, and it helps people find the show. Our cover art was created by Eugenie McClellan. Our show's music was produced by Sarisu. We have links to their work in the show notes, so give them some love.